Hey guys, welcome to the I Hope They Hear This podcast. Today I have with me returning guest, an old friend, Chris Lee. I wanted to talk to him about something new he's doing. He started his own law firm, and we get into a conversation about what he does, why did he start this law firm, and kind of the interesting dynamics of first gen, second generation business owners and the differences and things like that. And we also get into how a little bit of Chris's faith plays into his work. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we really hope you enjoy.
Sure, man. I've been when's the last time I ran into you, David?
I don't know. It's been at least a couple of months, or like half a year, maybe. Yeah. So try to stay equidistant.
Okay.
To the mic.
Is that good?
Yeah, I think that's good. Hey guys, welcome to the I Hope They Hear This podcast. I have with me returning guest, Mr. Chris Lee. Last time we talked, I learned about what was the term? Something immunity.
Official immunity.
Yeah, and that was eye-opening. But today you're here because you've done something kind of cool. Not a lot of people do. You started your own business, not as is it like considered entrepreneurial?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because it is entrepreneurial, but it's more on the professional side. Because you started your own law firm, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So excited to talk to you about that. Let me actually, if you're watching the video, that's what Chris brought me.
I'm also
T-shirts.
wearing one of them under my sweater.
Yeah, CSLaw, attorney at law, and the slogan back here: "We listen, we fight, we win." And so, like, kind of some of the things I've been observing. It sounds like you do a lot of work for people who are trying to litigate with insurance companies after accidents and stuff. Is that kind of like your focus, or is that just what I've been seeing?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably 80% of my business. We really focus on three things, but the third one is kind of, I'm phasing that out a little bit so I can focus on a couple less things. Mm-hmm. But really, the main practice area of my firm is injury law. Mm-hmm. So I spent the bulk of my career on the insurance side, defending the claims. Mm-hmm. And now I like to think of myself more like on the other side, helping the people who make the claims. Because if you think about it, before I'd get a claim in, but these were usually commercial insurance policies. So we get guy falls at Target and breaks his arm, and then Target's senior legal rep would contact us and say, "Hey, can you work on this?" Because they outsource all their legal claims to law firms, and they'd say, "Hey, can you help us defend this?" Quick Trip was a big client of ours at one firm I worked at, and people just get shot, fall, or hurt on their property all the time.
Yeah.
And so they're all about maximizing their margins and their balance sheets. So if they can maybe on a claim, if you do a good job defending it and they only have to pay $100,000 instead of having to pay $300,000, you just save them $200,000. Those seem like wins, but they're not that gratifying if you keep doing it for a long period of time.
Sure.
Because you're just keeping X company very rich.
Right.
And in the back of your mind, you're like, this lady, I used my legal skills to make sure she could not maximize her money from my client.
Kind of like you were fighting for Goliath, but now you're fighting for David kind of situation.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so you do that for a while, because I did that for like 7 years. I mean, granted, it was mixed. I represent companies, I represent police officers, but the moral of the story is all try to save insurance company, insuring these entities as much money as you can, because these insurance companies are ridiculously wealthy. So I decided, but to be honest, that sounds all like very cool and altruistic and very help the community, but if I'm being honest with you, it's just working those hours in that type of corporate setting because I was working 60, 70 hours a week consistently.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
It's just kind of wears you out.
Sure.
Because now with my firm, I do, similar work, but I don't have to work. I may work that much a week, but it's on my terms. I don't have someone looking down at me saying, "Hey, did you do your work today?"
Right. Wow. So I have a ton of questions.
Let's do it.
I'm trying to think of how. Okay, I'm gonna ask you some questions, and then I want to kind of circle back to, like, what kind of got you. What was the genesis of your idea to start your own firm? First question I want to ask is, because of recent events, right? Like a lot of your career you've dealt with insurance. Like when you heard the news about the healthcare CEO getting shot, did you have any opinions about that? Like any special opinions about that? Just kind of knowing the insurance business a little bit more than the average person.
Yeah, my immediate reaction was, I felt like the social response was a bit misplaced. I mean, I understand the sentiment. I worked in claims. I worked specifically in coverage at the final job I worked at before I left corporate firm work in general was actually specifically relating to coverage, whether something should be covered or not. And so I'm very aware of like how that works. But like this CEO guy, what role would he play in exactly making sure that a covered claim is covered or not covered? Or yes, he's responsible for that policy, but this is a industry-wide problem, right? This is not something that one guy is going to really make or break, because it's like United Healthcare, sure, like they're notorious for that. But you have that same issue with health insurance, property insurance, like these homes in California that are being burned to the ground. I bet you there's so many of these little loopholes. Insurance companies are always trying to find like this smallest little thing to say, we're not covering it.
Right.
They're always trying to weasel. But at the end of the day, it's because they're a for-profit business. It's not a government-funded or subsidied type of program. Some countries do that, but the United States doesn't.
Yeah.
So I thought of it and I said, probably as like a Christian, I probably should have, my reaction I think probably should have been more one of sympathy, but I was more like, why are people doing this? It's this guy, yes, he's a CEO, he can control policies and procedures, but he has to report to board of directors. They're all about the money. If United does this, then if the United decides to go and take a completely different route in terms of like how they're going to approve and deny claims, then everyone else in the healthcare industry they're not going to survive in the industry. Yeah. So it's just a matter of like an entire upheaval of the system, and it's not just one guy, because I don't think that in itself I don't think will do anything.
Sure. Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. That's interesting. It's almost like the issues that we have with insurance, it's not a bug, it's a feature. Like it's meant to be for profit, and it's when you run a business for profit, it's obvious that you place profit as priority over the other things that you do. So I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Like, yeah, I can kind of understand the sentiment. I will say I was a little bit shocked and scared about the social response, because at least from kind of what I saw, it was a lot of celebration and like a lot of just, like this is the turning of the tide. Yeah, this is great. Like all CEOs should be scared. And it's, as a Christian, right, morally speaking, I think that's kind of where it's a scary place to be in. But also it feels like this was probably what the hemisphere was like before, like something like the French Revolution or something like some big like social like chaos or whatever. So it is a bit scary to see. But yeah, that's you brought us some really interesting points.
Think about it. Do you think, honestly speaking, if I had a crystal globe, or I'm sorry, crystal ball, and I could look in the future, do you think in 10 years the insurance company is going to change because of acts of violence? No, because that's just the figurehead. You'd have to go after the figurehead, the board of directors. You'd have to do it at such a global scale, and to achieve the type of upheaval they're thinking of, you would need almost like a very violent revolution.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in that kind of world.
Yeah, yeah. I think there are people who see. I mean, I kind of understand people who are not doing so well economically, and who are depressed and who feel like hopelessness. I think there are people who are rooting for and looking forward to some sort of big revolution to happen. But yeah, you got to think about what that actually means. And I don't know that anyone would want to live in that world that might bring.
Yeah. I will say, though, my expertise on that specific area is a little bit limited because the coverage issues I was working with were more so not necessarily with healthcare. It was more so with commercial general liability stuff. Like, I did a lot of shooting work. For instance, like, say you're at a concert downtown, State Farm, and you get shot on the property. They're gonna say, "Oh, should State Farm Arena's insurance cover a shooting?" They're gonna have exclusion after exclusion after exclusion. If there was a firearm involved, we're not gonna pay. If there was a crime involved, we're not gonna pay. So it's like all these types of things because there's claims being made about anything and everything, and an insurance company needs to make sure that they are protecting themselves from, because you can only insure so much.
Right.
So it was very nitpicky and very technical. So that was another reason why I decided not to do that kind of work, because it's very technical.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You got to use a lot of your brain every day.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I can only imagine the amount of like paperwork you have to dig through to like familiarize yourself of all the technicalities and things like that.
So I knew my career in like insurance was probably going to be limited. The first day on my job, they're like, "Hey, here's an insurance policy. We need to know what coverage, whether or not we're going to exclude something or accept coverage. You got to read the whole policy." Some of these policies are 200 pages long, and it's the most boring, dense legal jargon in the world. And it's like, oh my god.
Yeah. And
if you shortcutted your way and kind of skip some pages, the people you work for will know, because these people are like giga nerds of insurance. I was blessed to work with some really bright attorneys, but fortunately, what drives me and what moves my gears is not dense insurance clauses. It's more tangible things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very technical.
So the second question I wanted to ask you is, what is like an ideal client for you? Like if it was like, who would you look at, and in what situation would they need to be in for you to say, "Oh, I can help those people out"?
That question kind of conflicts me a little bit, if I'm being completely transparent, because the business I'm in is you help people, but sometimes helping people. So as a business owner of my business specifically, I'm often conflicted between helping people and profitability. I'm sure that's most businesses,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But like the ideal client may not check the profitability margin, but it might check that warm feeling, fuzzy feeling inside. And so I think if I try to generalize and kind of think about just generalize, maybe that would be a combination of the two. So with the type of work I do specifically, let's say I had one client who I represented recently. She was a really great client for all intents and purposes, because a insurance company actually denied her claim and said she was in an accident. It wasn't her fault, but the insurance company denied her claim, and then she's actually she has some citizenship issues. She might not have a green card or anything like that. So she feels like she can't do anything with the legal system. But that's a misguided understanding of the law, because specifically federal law protects a lot of undocumented citizens, at least as it stands now. Might change when Trump takes office. But I assured her, like, you were the subject of a really wrong situation. She was hurt. Her vehicle was totaled. She didn't have a car. She didn't know what to do. So I was like, just trust me. Thankfully, she trusted me. I got the insurance company to go from saying we're not going to cover this to we'll cover it, and she got a very nice settlement for it. She got treatment. Her car was replaced. She got a new car. She got probably more money than she's seen in a long time. So that checked off all the boxes for me, and she was the type of client who was needed the help and was very grateful and cooperative throughout the whole process.
So would you say then, if let's say that somebody got in a car accident, would they only call you if they were unhappy with like the insurance situation, or should they just call you regardless?
Yeah, you should never PSA for any people relating to, because I'm sure anyone listening to this will get in a car accident in the next however. I mean, I don't wish that to happen to anybody, but just living in Atlanta or wherever you are, you're gonna probably end up being involved in that in some way. You never want to proceed without an attorney, because as someone who worked for insurance, if you proceed without an attorney, you get assigned to a different insurance adjuster than if you have an attorney.
Interesting.
The adjuster that you'll be handling, as soon as they see an attorney rep letter, a lot of times it will get shifted over to a different adjuster, because they know that they can't do X, Y, and Z. And a lot of these insurance adjusters will try to do things to undermine you. They say, hey, we'll just send you a check. Will you release us? And it's like, you should never do that now. Or they'll say, hey, can we take a recorded statement? Can we take a recorded statement of this as well? Can we look at your vehicle? And can we do this and that? And they're not allowed to do any of those things. And so, yeah, you're really putting yourself behind the game if you start and you kind of do it on your own.
So then if let's say I got in a car accident, or should I immediately call you, or what should be my like procedure there if I needed legal assistance?
Yeah, so you can call me directly.
Okay.
You specifically call me directly. But generally, if you call, what I would recommend is you would want to call a lawyer. If not me, then somebody. You just call their firm, and they'll take you through the whole intake process, which is they'll ask you for what happened, what are your injuries like, because at the end of the day, I'm an attorney, but 90% of what I do these days isn't even really legal work. It's like just being there for someone when they need it, right? Because someone gets in an accident. I'm representing a girl right now who was leaving church. She gets T-boned by a Range Rover, like straight on, and like I immediately from the scene, one of her friends know that I was a lawyer and calls me, and I hear this girl in like severe pain. It's like, is there any legal work to this? No. But there is a level of knowledge that I can tell her what to do. Hey, go here. Tomorrow, call me back. Then we'll go here and here and here. Because attorneys have these relationships with these providers where they won't charge the client, but they only do that if they know that a lawyer's involved, because they understand that if the lawyer's involved, there's going to be some money later on.
Right.
So most of the times I'm just like metaphorically holding these people's hands along the way. I'm not sure why I got to this point, but
no, yeah, that's good information, because when for like a layperson like me, I would just if I got in a car accident, I would say, oh, I guess I just gotta call the police and then just call my insurance company and then let my insurance company handle it.
No, you actually don't even want to call your insurance company unless the other person's insurance company is just giving you a hard time. Because if you call your own insurance company and start that process, you have to pay your deductible. You might not ever get that back. And it's just better to go the other way. I would say I liked a lot of law firms out there there's so many of them, but a lot of times it's hard to actually talk with a lawyer. You talk with paralegal or case manager for an attorney, and you might talk to the lawyer once.
Yeah.
But my firm, why I started it, I recognized that there was a need for people who can't access their lawyers all the time. So really with my firm, I have a good number of clients, but their primary point of contact is me. So they don't really talk with the case manager. Like, I have people that work for me that do the other stuff, but I just feel like, not to toot my own horn, but the level of expertise and the way I can talk to a client and inform them and guide them along the process. I mean, unless you are just some phenomenal case manager, I don't know of a case manager that could honestly do what I do, because I mean I have 10 years plus of legal experience fighting in court and stuff. And so yeah, you can call me anytime. If you or your friends ever, they can call me, and my firm, I monitor all of the incoming calls. So I there's almost no situation in which I don't get back to someone within 24 hours.
Then is it exclusively like car accident situations that you do work on, or are there other things as well?
Yeah, so I do. I'm like I said, my firm's still pretty new, so I figure it's kind of like fluid in terms of my practice areas. But I worked at 1 year at the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office, so I was prosecuting felony cases for about a year, and then I did criminal defense work at the first job I did. So between all that, I have several years of criminal defense experience. So I have a number of cases I'm working on now that are defending people who've been charged with felonies, misdemeanors. Last month was a lot of DUIs. Yeah, a lot of DUIs just because holiday season.
Interesting.
I got a good number of those. So I spent a few days. There were multiple days where I was at jails bonding people out or helping out with first appearance hearings, arraignments. So, I mean, last year, 2024, we had everything from pretty serious violent felonies to traffic tickets. I really don't do much anymore just because I don't have the time. But I will do it if it's somebody I know, and it's more of just like I want to just help them, because the ROI on that's just not there anymore.
Is that part of the business that you're kind of trying to phase out that you were mentioning?
Yeah. I mean, just for complete transparency, a lot of these traffic citation attorneys in Georgia will charge you $700-800 for one appearance. I would say any attorney worth their salt is paying about that much. I mean, it's not bad money for, just objectively speaking, but it is a grind to just do that all the time, because there's a lot of different ways you can make money as an attorney than that.
Yeah. Wow. So I guess really just any sort of situation, if there are people out there listening who are interested in kind of hiring you, it's not like limited to just like car accident situations, right? You're just a lawyer, so they can contact you for a lot of different things.
I usually get contacted for things I don't do.
Oh, okay.
That's probably most of the phone calls I do get are because people associate lawyer with being able to do anything legal, but we are a very specialized practice. That's why I think I do a few things, and I do them very well. And I don't think I compromise my ability to do one thing by doing two, because I have been considering just focusing on one, but it's not so difficult. It's like, can you cook American food and you can also cook Korean food? Yeah, and I don't think that if you did both, it makes you worse at one than the other, because cooking is inherently not. I mean, maybe you could get slightly better at one than the other, but I just don't think it's there. I also do one other thing, but that's more of like something I kind of don't advertise. I also work as general counsel for some businesses.
Oh, okay.
So I've done a lot of different things in my career up till now, and so there's a handful of companies I work for who have me on retainer. So anytime they have legal issues arise, I'm a call away, and they just call me and they ask me about whether it's liability related, corporate related. I have I'm general counsel for 5 Points Electrical, which is an electrical company headquartered here in Georgia, who's probably 100 plus employees now. Wow. They have a bunch of different things. Trucking companies, I represent a few of them. I represent a couple of body shops when it comes to injuries that happen on their property, workers' comp claims, or when it comes to their own structuring of their business, whether they want to change from, let's say, like they want to do S corp or C corporations, or they want to do, or they want to draft certain employee agreements, right? It's just, I think I'm just knowledgeable enough in a lot of the areas where they don't need to go out and pay lawyer at, tall, shiny building $700 an hour when I'll charge them a fraction of that to give them probably 90% of the information they need. So I help them out with that, and it's more just me helping out my community. I don't really make much money from that. It's more me just trying to help people these are businesses are usually people that I'm connected with in some way. So I just help them with that. Because I used to work as corporate counsel for a lot of these community service boards here in Georgia. So they're like mental health institutions, things like that. And I probably would still be doing that work because it was really fun, and it was always something new every day. But the partner I worked for actually passed away. So it was after he left, that whole book of business kind of dried up.
Wow. So then let's kind of circle back to how this all started, because I'm sure like starting your own business isn't something you just come to lightly, right?
No.
So
it's a lot of risk, and it's very scary.
Yeah. So what motivated you to kind of jump into that pool?
So that is a great question. And now that I've had some time to reflect about that over the past year, it was a number of things. Number one was, a lot of people think I'm crazy because I started a business while my son was 2 months old.
That's right. Yeah.
3 months old. So they're like, why would you do that? That's so much risk. You have to have a certain level of conviction in yourself to do it, because it is terrifying. Because you go from, working as an attorney, working for these large firms, your paycheck it's a good paycheck. I was getting paid well at my old jobs, but there was just it was like an itch you have on your back where you feel like you can do it, and I think it came from, number one, really thinking back. I think as a minority working in a corporate setting, I personally, I don't know if a lot of people feel this way, but I think a lot of people, if they really thought about it, would. Coming from a minority position, is the corporate America space is predominantly a white male field. And let's focus more on the white part, right? There's just not a lot of minorities in high positions there. And I may have just put this upon myself. I don't even feel like the companies I work for put me down in that kind of way, but I always felt like working for a company like that, I almost felt indebted to them. Like, oh, they gave me this job, they're paying me, and I always felt like they had one on me, right? Like they could fire me anytime they want to, and I subconsciously didn't like that, just because it's like, maybe it's an ego thing. I don't think it's an ego thing. I think it's more of like I don't like that chip on my shoulder. I want to see if I can do it. Because like now, the money I make is the money I legitimately have made without no one, assisting me on that. It's just me.
Yeah.
That's probably like a very like Freudian subconscious type of level of decision making. Another part of it too is the quality of life that you have as a business owner. Yeah, it's more stressful. It's at times, but at least it's stress on my own terms. Like when I had my kid, who was born in September of 2023, I quit my job at my firm in March 2024. So there's a 6-month period where, I'd go to the office at 9-ish, and then if it's a good day, I'd be out by 5:30. But in Atlanta traffic, that means I leave at like 8:30, and I'm coming home at like 6:30. I was working from home probably 2 of those days a week. But 3 out of the days of the week, by the time I get home, it's time to put the kid down.
Yeah.
So you see him for 30 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And on bad days, I wouldn't come home before he sleeps, right? And so I realized that that's not the type of parent I want to be. And that was another factor in it too. And then I think also, I don't know what it was, but like I put it off for a really long time.
Oh, so it was something you had in mind?
For probably 4 or 5 years.
Oh, okay.
And I would say a great piece of advice that I heard was that one thing that you know you should probably do but don't want to do it is probably the thing that you need to do. Because in my mind, I'm like, for attorneys, once you go from firm work to anything else, that career path is over. You can't go back in.
Really?
Because they will look at you, because it's all about making it partner level. Because that's all the track that I was on. I was on partner track at my last jobs, if I'd stayed there. But I knew if I jump ship, that is a door that will close forever. Because you can't really go back to doing that. They'll look at you like, why did you do that? So it was pretty scary because, you know, my parents are very first generation immigrant parents, saying you have something stability. That's all they care about, right? Because they didn't have that.
Right. Your dad was like also a business owner, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was a grind for him, so he understands the level of, you know, ups and downs and uncertainty that comes with owning a business. So I just put it off for a really long time. I honestly did it because I told myself I just need to save more money to have a war chest in case business goes bad for a little while. Because now I'm responsible for myself, my wife, my child, and so I had to make sure I had enough money in the bank, or I didn't have, if no work came in, I would be okay for a few years. So that's what that was the reason why it did take me so long. But I mean, going back to the question of why, what motivated me to do that, it's I think when you get, like, as I got older, my values changed a lot. And instead of like, what can I do for myself? Now it became, what can I do for my wife, my child, my parents? I want to retire my parents. I want to be able to, you know, do this and that for the people I love. And, you know, in this economy, making a W-2, it's hard to do that.
Sure.
Yeah. So I was like, I got to shoot bigger. And like, the biggest thing that I thought of was, if I don't ever do this, I'm always going to think of what if. Because I am a person who does not like change in anything. I actually think that's probably one of my things I would change about myself if I could, is I don't like, I like what's comfortable. I like eating at the restaurants I like eating to. You know, I like going to the vacations on the places I like. It's just, I'm a creature. I'm a creature of habit, and I like my creature comforts. But you know, this was one where I was like, if I'm on my deathbed, and I look back and I was like, what if I had done that? I was like, I got to do it. So I just felt terrible doing it, but did it. And so far, last year was a year I thought would be a year. Most businesses in their first year are probably net negative, meaning their balance sheet is red. And that's what I was fully expecting. But actually, my balance sheet was positive last year.
Oh, wow. No, that's great. Congratulations.
I was, yes, very blessed.
Yeah.
Just been feeling very blessed these days.
That's huge.
Yeah. So, I mean, last year, I had some cases come in that were pretty solid and closed for a good amount. So I took my family on more vacations last year than I ever had in my life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's special.
We went to New York, Vegas twice. Just a lot. I don't want to gloat, but we went a lot.
Yeah. I think that work-life balance, that's huge. Yeah. Especially, I think the values changing, a lot of that, I mean, a lot of it comes with age, but I think most of it comes with becoming a parent, right? Like, for me, like, our family, we actually just came back from Disney, and we go there a lot because, like, the first time we went, we saw how excited like our kids get, like kind of seeing like the castle and all that kind of stuff. And me and Shirley, my wife, we were fully aware that, this isn't gonna last forever. Like they're not gonna come back when they're 18 and then have that same kind of like enchantment.
If you're my wife, you will.
No, no, but
Stella does.
No, sure. But it's there is something about like the age specific, like the way they experience it, it might all be positive, but the way they experience it is different, like at certain ages. And I think that's something that, like, you know, like parents like us, we realize that, like our kids are growing and changing so fast that there are things in this moment that we don't want to miss out on. So we start prioritizing things differently to capture those moments. Yeah.
And Disney knows this.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
That's why it's so expensive.
They know it, and they have us on the hook, and they're making a lot of money off of us.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That when I went, we went on a Disney cruise last year, and we went to Disney at least once last year. But I'm realizing that values changing, definitely. Did you know that you have like the brain, when it creates the sense of pleasure, it can come from like two different types of your parts of your brain. So there's the part of your brain that creates immediate pleasure from your own self-gratification. Like David goes and buys a Ferrari. Brain sends pleasure signals from a certain area of the brain, right? Versus, let's say you got a friend who has never been to Georgia before, right? And then the friend's like, hey, David, what's cool about Georgia? And you're like, what type of food do you like? Oh, let me show you this place. There is a level of pleasure your brain sends when it's something, sharing something with someone that doesn't know about that, and that comes from a whole different area of your brain. So I think as we're getting older, like this side of the brain, it's had its time. You know, like doing stuff for myself, the pleasure I'm getting is it's just not. It's still there, but that second part of the brain, in particularly when you deal with your children, that's the pleasure that you start living for. So
interesting.
Yeah, your brain's it's very complicated.
Yeah,
but you know, because I'm the type of person, like if someone tells me like, hey, you know, what's a good movie, and you're like, dude, you have to watch this movie, or like if they've never seen Lord of the Rings before, I'm like, I will sit down and look at you and make sure you're watching it. Why? Because I get pleasure knowing that you are enjoying what I'm watching. So that's part of being a parent, I guess, too.
Yeah, and I think the thing that you touched on earlier is the immigrant community, right? I think something that's kind of unique in our generation that we didn't see in our parents' generation is the emergence of second-gen immigrants in professional fields. So what I mean by that is, back in the day, when our parents' generation, when they needed help with something, they had their friends, but all they could provide is maybe a little bit of money and some comfort, but nothing real, like no expertise, like not much of value could be provided. But for us, right, like you were mentioning, like if I get in a car accident, like I can call you, or like if I'm curious about
or if you go to jail.
Oh, your jail, yeah. My daughters, they had like teeth issues. So Shirley has a friend who's a dentist now, like a pediatric dentist. So she'll like take pictures and send it to her and say, hey, like, is this okay? Like, what do we need to do? Like, so we have friends that we can like reach out to get like real expertise from. And I think that is kind of like the thing you were talking about, the different part of the brain that I guess gets activated when we are able to like introduce someone to something that kind of like that you find of value. In that same way, I think our generation were able to provide each other with these kind of like helping hands that we didn't really see happen as much in our parents' generation. So I think there's something unique there where maybe like we're like really proud of ourselves being able to do that, and we're experiencing like new pleasures by doing that thing, and that's also something that's kind of driving us to do those things, or to explore those things. Because I mean, that's kind of what this podcast is about too, you know, like back in the day, like, oh, somebody did a podcast, oh, it must be like a white person, like they know how to do those kinds of things, like but now it's whatever thing we thought was of value back then that we needed to go to the white community for, like we have it in our community as well, which is interesting, you know.
I mean, you live in Johns Creek, man. Like this is a completely Johns Creek 2025 is like a immigrant community.
Yeah, super diverse.
Yeah. You need anything and everything in this community is probably run by minorities at this point.
My dad had to get his gallbladder removed like a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and for some reason, like I didn't even know this guy, but the surgeon doing the surgery was a Korean immigrant, like second gen Korean American.
Was it here in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Maybe my cousin.
Oh really?
Or my cousin's husband, because he's a urologist that works out at Emory.
Oh yeah, maybe.
His name is Ben.
I don't know his name.
Oh.
Does he speak? He didn't speak Korean that well.
No, his Korean's not that good.
Yeah. But like he spoke just enough to like comfort my parents, saying, "Oh my goodness, like it's
Yeah.
a Korean guy." Like,
It might be my
that's-
cousin's husband.
oh, that's cool. Small world.
Because he's the only Korean urologist I know. And gallbladder's like kind of like down in the that area. Maybe it was him. Maybe it wasn't.
Maybe. Yeah, but I mean, just the fact that we have those things, like those, it's somewhat new. I think, like for our kids, it's gonna be like they're not even gonna know like what we're talking about, right? Because it's gonna be such a common thing for them. But
I think that's really empowering to them though, because it now the minority community, especially like our generation, we had to do a lot of trailblazing. Even the generation before us probably even had to do even more. But I remember when I graduated from law school, I mean, I looked around like who are the Korean American lawyers in the community? There was hardly any. Now, like there's way more. Now there's like okay, because before when I came to the legal field, I was like, man, there's like really not much competition here. If I wanted to market to the Asian community, now it's like billboard Korean guy, billboard Korean woman. It's like there's a lot of them now, but it like you've been touching upon, like in even 20 years ago, that was not the scene, and so it does lay the groundwork for success for our community, and but it was not without difficulty, right?
for sure.
It's never easy being the first of anything. Like I was watching this podcast of like Asian rappers and what they had to go through, and I was like, man, that must have been tough. So
Yeah, we're doing it, man. Like, I mean, not we, you're doing it. Yeah, you know, like people like you who are kind of stepping out and doing the things that weren't necessarily modeled for you, and just kind of figuring it out as you go. I think that's really special. You know, like yeah, I know how to grind at work because I've seen my dad do it, but like I don't know how to do the things that my dad didn't do. Like if I wanted to venture into those things, I would have to go out and learn it myself. You know?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that I don't think I was even fully equipped. Not equipped. I don't think I was fully cultivated to be a successful corporate America worker. Insofar as like seeing other people really thriving in that field, because it's so counterintuitive to my upbringing. You know, because I would work with a lot of other attorneys in my field who were objectively progressing at a faster rate than I was in terms of like skill work, client communications, things like that. But like, I'm sure their cultural upbringing was very different than mine. Like, I'm a product of what I was around, and that did not enable me to be the most proper speaking, straight thinking type of like the way I think is a lot different than those types of people. And like them seeing, by them I'm referring to my colleagues who probably I know for a fact they come from a lot more of a more traditional, well established type of, like, you know, they've been here for generations. I'm sure the children model after that and kind of see how to do that, at least in some part. Whereas I come from, my dad has no education, mom same way, and so how they raised me was probably a little bit different. So when I had to go plug into that type of corporate setting, you just always feel really out of place, because it's you know, it's not really anything that you're exposed to as a immigrant kid who's, you know, upbringing is working with your dad at his very blue collar. My dad did shoe repair. So it's like, man, this is so different than what I, you know, things like that.
Yeah, for sure. You know, so does he still do that?
Same shop.
I still drive by that Kroger Plaza every now and again.
Same shop, man.
Wow.
That'd be 31 years he's been in that location.
That's amazing in and of itself. Like,
I don't know how he makes money. I don't know how he does it. Now that I'm a business owner myself, and I'm thinking about his overhead, and I'm like, how did you raise me and my sister on doing that business? But I don't question it. He's still there.
No, that's amazing. Wow.
Getting close to the time of calling it quits, but it's difficult to change, give that up.
No, I'm sure. I mean, he's been running it for 30 years. He's been in the same spot. It's, they say I think it was when you quit a job or when you retire or something like that, it's almost as if you grieve almost as if you've lost a loved one. Like it's like a similar kind of processing that happens in the brain because it's been such a big part of your life, and it's suddenly like there's a lack of that thing.
Yeah, it's like your identity is so tied to that. That is his identity. And he hasn't hung it up yet because, I mean, it's where every day friends will come over and just hang out with him there. So you give up all that. Like, even I can relate in the sense of, like, now that I'm 34, my identity was so tied into, like, athletics when I was younger. And then now that I'm physically not able to do the things I did anymore, there was a good moment where I was like, what do I do? Like, I imagine, like, professional athletes go through this when they aren't done. They just, it's a very big identity crisis.
Yeah.
So,
do you find identity in being like a business owner now?
Yes, for sure. I find inevitably, yes, you do. And then I'm finding a lot more in family, being a good dad, being a good husband. Which is strange because I never thought I would be a family guy. I'm really selfish. In my core, I'm a selfish person. I know that. I like things for myself, but it's very bizarre. I did not think I would be this way. And
so let's talk about that. How has it been being a dad? I mean, first I know the last time we talked, you were married, but you definitely didn't have a kid yet. So yeah, how has it been transitioning from a hotshot lawyer to business owner dad?
Yeah, it's I'm a completely just. I didn't realize how much different your life would be when you had a kid. And I say that so I say that with such gravity behind it that I don't even think kids are probably right for everybody, because like your life will flip upside down.
Yeah,
I mean, you'll say that, and everyone says that, but everything just changes.
Yeah.
Your routine, what you can do, the things you care about. Like when I buy something for myself, it barely moves the pendulum of my own happiness now, to the point where it's like, why do I even do that? But being a dad is I think the person who disciples me said something that I really agree with. He said, the longest and greatest sermon of your life is parenthood.
Wow.
Because I would say in becoming a dad, it radicalized so many areas of my life. My sense of time is like completely like heightened, because you see this little thing just grow so fast. And then like, I mean, when I'm in your 20s, early 30s, like you got time to do things. I mean, you think, but like your sense of how fast time moves is like you have a scale right in front of you now. You can literally see how much it grows every day, and it's like, holy crap, life is short. So it gives me more urgency in that. It also that in and of itself was a huge shift for me. Like when I'm just way more urgent with everything. Like I want to be able to live with more intention, because I know how important every moment is. Because I mean, one day he's not moving or not crawling. Next day he's walking. Then now he's like talking a little bit. Right. It's like everything is just coming at you.
Yeah.
And you have to. You just realize how short life is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if this is just like a me thing. I don't know if you feel like that way too.
Oh no, for sure. Yeah.
But like I never felt like that until I had a kid, and then after that I felt like, man, life is fast.
Yeah.
So that gave me an urgency with my business, with what I want to do, urgency with like how I want to travel with my parents. It also gave me a lot of urgency with my religious faith too, though, because yeah, that was so changed me in my spiritual, emotional, those deeply. It's kind of like a very very stern wake up call to a lot of those things.
That's really great to hear. I remember, I think one of the last conversations we had was I was saying, hey, you should be getting discipled. I remember mentioning, I forget what we were talking about, but I just said, hey, like I've been discipling a couple of guys, and it's like, and I've been getting discipled by my pastor. It's like really great. So I was like, I think I was trying to sell it to you.
You did.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. So it's good to hear that you're getting discipled, and also the thing you said about parenthood being the longest sermon, that makes a lot of sense to me, because one thing that like clicked for me when I had kids is, the problem of evil. There's a book by C.S. Lewis, but it's always just been kind of cerebral for me, right? Like as a Christian, how do we grapple with the fact that there's evil that exists in this world? And when I see the interaction between my kids and like somebody wrongs the other kid, from their perspective, because they're so like their worldview is so limited and they have no experience, whatever little thing slight that has been done to them is as if they've been greatly wronged, right? Like evil has been done upon me. Now you, father, as caregiver, you must do something to right this wrong.
Yeah.
And so they're probably, sometimes my kid is probably expecting me to vanquish the evil, right? Which is their sibling. But as a father, I'm not going to, like throw one baby away to appease the other baby who has this feeling of great evil that they've had to endure, right? It's like, so like when I think about that, then I kind of put into perspective for me personally, like in practical terms, like there is evil in the world because God, he allows me. Like I'm the guy who I'm the person who perpetrates evil upon other people often, and there are other people that perpetrate evil upon me too. But God is looking at us all as his children. So because of his great love for us, there is some evil that exists because we are inherently evil. So like just kind of being able to relate certain situations from me to my kids, and then kind of like seeing the parallels to like God to us, has been really helpful, and I think has really helped me mature in my faith as well. So yeah, I think your discipler is exactly right. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's not anything like I recommend. This is why I wanted to get discipled to begin with.
What was it?
Because I want to disciple people, but I like mentoring people. I covertly disciple people without them knowing. I try to like be like a mentor like figure with the subtone of it being kind of religious without being like overtly religious. Like, between C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, I'm more like, I would like to think I'm more like Tolkien instead of Lewis, because Lewis is like, hey, a lion that comes back from the dead, ooh-hoo. That's because Tolkien actually would not like Lewis as some of his works. He's like, come on, man, that's so obvious.
Yeah, Jesus lion.
Yeah, Jesus lion that comes back from the dead. You couldn't have picked any other. So I like to take more like the because a lot of the people I interact with, most of the times they're not really that religious people, but the type of people you need to kind of like infiltrate or kind of get into that to influence them. You can't just come out them with a Bible. You got to just live a life that resembles one that Jesus would live. So, but I have my own vices. I have my own shortcomings. So, I knew that I needed to walk with someone who I could confide in. So it's a process. We meet twice a month. Just chop it up. Get into some less than comfortable things.
Yeah.
But I do think discipleship, staple of the Christian faith.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a huge proponent of discipling. I meet my pastor who disciples me every Wednesday morning, and I meet a guy every Thursday morning and another guy every Friday morning who I disciple. And so yeah, I think you're exactly right that if you have the heart to disciple, like, you need to be getting discipled yourself, because I think everybody needs. There was a seminar I went to one time, and I forget who it was, but this is like really famous old preacher guy, and he's talking to people like, you need to be getting discipled, and like everyone needs to have a discipler. And then somebody in the crowd, kind of in jest, was like, who's discipling you? Because this guy's like, he's like 80 years old, and he's like, I have a 90-year-old discipler. So this guy who's like renowned speaker, like he even had somebody who was more like experienced than him, that was kind of speaking into his life, walking with him, and like everyone was like, who could possibly be discipling this guy? He's like, he knows everything. He's so wise, but he believed in getting discipled so much so that he was getting discipled himself, and he was really walking the walk, So I think anybody out there listening, first of all, you should, if you're in trouble, you should call Chris if you need any of his services. But secondly, if you're a Christian, yeah, you should be getting discipled, because you should also be discipling yourself, which is the Great Commission, right? So
Yeah, and I think the iron sharpens iron. When you
sure.
disciple too, I think it rubs off on you in the right way.
Yeah.
So I've going back to your question, it's been a very. I was talking to my wife about this. I was like, man, I feel like in the last year I've changed so much as a person. Because I feel like from 28 to like 32, 33, I was pretty consistent with who I was. But I don't know what it is. Just past year or so, I've been just kind of more woke. Not in like the millennial,
Right.
the modern stigma for wokeness, but more so just more aware of things, which has been good. And I try to translate all of the my personal development into my business as well, because like I just like to treat people with a lot of dignity and real just attention, because that's really lacking in my field. Because you get a lot of people never talk to their attorneys, and like especially personal injury, it's such a money driven industry, and don't get me wrong, I feel the temptation of the financial part of it as well. Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, if I just move these as fast as I can, then I can move on to the next one. But I try to really focus my business on not focusing on overall profitability, but doing right by the client. Because from the bulk of law firms out there these days, they focus on their profitability. They figure, okay, if we spend 10 hours negotiating a case, that will probably get you to where the case will usually go. But if the case will not get to a certain point, and we got to file a lawsuit, do all this and that, then it's going to just take more time, and the time to investment is not there. So they'll never tell you this, but they'll tell the client, hey, this is probably the best you're going to get. You should take it, and they'll try to get them to settle and take this money. When if you're really doing your job as an attorney, you can get more, but it's just to get that much more money would take probably 4 times more work. But I mean, a lot of lawyers, if you crunch the numbers, they can make $1,000, $2,000 an hour if you actually count the amount of time that they worked. They don't want to, bring that number down by spending more time on something to get maybe $4,000 or $5,000 more for the client. It would take you maybe 20 or 30 hours to do that. They just don't want to do it. They just focus so much on the numbers. Whereas for me, like, don't get me wrong, my time is limited too, right? So I try to think about all that too, but I don't ever look at a case of mine where I try to think, well, it'd be more convenient for me to do it this way. I'm always thinking to the client, here's your options, and this is how we can go. This is I work for you. You tell me what you want to do. Because that happens so much. Like, I hear all these stories of like people talking to people. I'm like, hey, you're in an accident. What did you do? How much did you get for your pain and suffering? And it's like, I'm hearing some ridiculously low numbers. I'm like, that is just not right. Somewhere somebody is not doing right by you. Because like, if you ever get in a car accident, or you fall in a Kroger, or somebody, you get bit by someone's dog, that's all in the stuff I do. I mean, that opportunity can give you, that opportunity could compensate you in a way that could change the trajectory of your life, right? Like, I had somebody who got in a car accident. I got them a very, I guess it's relative, but I got them a nice settlement check. They've never seen that kind of money in their life before. It's tax-free, and they started their nail salon with it.
Oh, wow. And
that set them up for God knows how long, right? But it's like, you just treat these people like they're numbers, Yeah, so I really try to focus on that, because I'm from this community, and I just want to see people do well.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people economy's tough. It's tough out there, man. People are struggling, so I like to help people as much as I can.
Yeah. And I like the first story you told, and also like I see on your like social media some of the wins you have where people, they get kind of the first compensation from the insurance company.
Offer?
Yeah, the first offer from the insurance company. And like, if you don't know, then you just kind of assume that's the best you're going to get. And then you kind of step in and say, no, this isn't right. Like, and then you are able to do something better for them. I think that's like something that people don't even realize they need. Like, someone like that in your corner.
Yeah. And the whole reason I can do that, there's only one reason I can do that, because I'm a litigator. So there's like two types of lawyers who litigate and those who don't. Lawyers who don't litigate, meaning what litigation's is a legal word, basically means, do you file lawsuits and go to court, or do you not want to do that because it's too time? Filing lawsuits and going to court takes a lot of time. But insurance companies, I've worked for them. They know the firms that do that and they don't. If you don't do it, they will test you. They'll say, this is all we have, because they know you're not going to push them, right? But I file lawsuits on everything. I'm petty. Like, the pettiest thing I filed recently was, let's say for instance you get a car accident, right? In your car, somebody hits you. When you try to go sell your car, it's going to be less value because it has a Carfax report, right? So I can make sure I get that money from the insurance company, and it's a separate thing. I don't even charge for it. I just do it for free, and I get the client that check. I negotiate that whole process, right? Client gets in an accident, and not very big by any means, but the insurance company was like, we only want to give $500 for it. I was like, I talked to some people who know like how it works. They're like, you should probably get $1,500 for it. I was like, I'm at $1,500 solid. And the insurance company was like, I'm at $1,500 solid, man. And they're like, we'll give you $1,000. I was like, okay, this is how it's gonna go. I will go to $1,250. If you take this money, this will be your only opportunity to take this money. I won't even accept $1,500 if you want to do it later. I'm going to ask for $5,000 later. This is your last chance. They said $1,000. I was like, okay, we're done. So then I went to court. I went to a bench trial before a judge for $250. It took a ridiculous amount of time.
Oh, wow.
But number one, it's because I'm petty, and I don't like people trying to take advantage of my clients. Number two, because I don't want to sell them. I don't want to look my client in the eye and be like, hey, this is all they're doing. I say, just let me do my job.
Yeah.
And so
and you're also,
but that's not like my business mentor would tell me, don't do that, because that's like 20 hours of my time for $250. And by the way, I don't get any part of that, the property damage. I do all that for free. So,
but I would say that maybe you're also cultivating a reputation.
yes, that's the thing. So I actually have two friends of mine who are attorneys who don't litigate. They do the pre-litigation, everything before that, exceptionally well. So a lot of times they don't even need to do it because like they've done their groundwork so well. But sometimes they get cases that are not there yet, and so they will then bring me in and they'll give me their case and say, hey, take this one and go to town. So that's been a good chunk of my business, getting these referral cases, because they know that I fight tooth and nail. Because I mean, if you don't do that, then insurance company will just bluff you all day long. Be like, you're not going to do anything. What are you going to do? Like, you're not going to hit me, you know? So fortunately, I spent the entire first half of or up till now in my career doing the litigating in court, going to trial, doing all that stuff. And it's difficult. It's not easy. Like my journey up until to where I was now, if I think back, it's a lot of am I gonna even make it in this type of thing? Because I was doing litigation for like large companies. It wasn't like, you know, David Shin lawsuit. It was lawsuit against company and for millions of dollars. If I screw this up, then you know it's not gonna be good. So yeah, that's kind of my whole thing. I would like to think I did my time, so I can use my skills to you know, like Taken, like that, like Liam Neeson.
You have a special set of skills.
I do though. I really think I do. And so other lawyers literally will ask me for those skills because they just haven't, you know, been through the crucible that I have. So,
that's awesome. And I think for those of you who are listening, who are in situations that Chris was describing, you now know somebody from your community who can be in your corner, who can have your back. So I think that's really special. And so, is there anything that the listener should know about in regards to CSLaw that you want to share, that you didn't get the chance to share, or does this shirt say it all?
I would say, you know, there's a lot of there's a lot of law firms out there. Truthfully, they're on every billboard, but I just don't know of many other lawyers who will literally be as invested in their clients' cases as I am. Just because, I mean, I'm still young enough where I'm not jaded or tired out, so I can do the, you know, I can be a bulldog if I need to, and you know, I really enjoy kind of where things have taken me now. So there's really nothing else I would add to what we talked about other than I really enjoy helping people.
You know, to add to what you were saying, that you can be a bulldog. So I've known Chris for like 20 years now.
Maybe more. No, definitely more.
That's crazy that I know somebody. But anyway, I've known Chris for a long time, and I remember when you first got your RSX, your license plate started ADD.
Yes,
like attention deficit disorder. Like ADD.
I have that though.
No, so we were like, oh, that's appropriate. But because like just kind of like back then you were so like wild, you're full of energy, and you know, so we were like, oh, that makes perfect sense that he would get that license plate. But just kind of seeing how he's grown into like the professional that he is, it also, like, I can vouch 100% that this guy can be a bulldog if he wanted to. Like, he has that energy and he has that focus to really hone in and like fight tooth and nail for the things that he thinks are right. So I will be the first to say I vouch for that, and I can say that I want Chris in my corner if I'm in those situations.
I went to trial over $250.
That's
$250.
Yeah.
But well, It's been a journey.
Well, I'm so happy and thankful that you came to share that journey with us. And we'll keep in touch and kind of see how things are going. I would love to hear more stories and more of what you learn throughout. But yeah, thank you so much for coming today. And guys, again, CSLaw. Give him a shout if you need it. And thank you guys so much for listening. Bye.